The stagecoach rattled to a halt in front of Willow Creek's only hotel, sending dust swirling in the late afternoon sunlight. Sophia Anderson clutched her worn leather suitcase tightly to her chest, heart hammering against her ribs as she stared through the window at the small frontier town that would be her new home. At 22, she had traveled over 1,000 miles from Boston, answering an advertisement for brides needed in the Wyoming Territory of 1875. "End of the line, ladies," the driver called, opening the door with a creak. Sophia stepped down onto the dusty street last, following the 5 other women who had shared her journey. They were all mail-order brides, just like her, summoned by the promise of marriage in a land where women were scarce. Unlike them, however, Sophia had no arranged match waiting. She had simply responded to a general call for marriageable women, hoping to escape the crushing weight of spinsterhood that had fallen on her after her father's death. Mrs. Holloway, a stout woman with iron-gray hair and a perpetual frown, ushered them toward the hotel. As the town's unofficial matchmaker, she had arranged for most of these unions, corresponding with lonely men throughout the territory. "You'll all have an opportunity to rest before meeting your prospective husbands at tonight's social," Mrs. Holloway announced, her voice crisp with authority. "We have a fine selection of gentlemen eager to make your acquaintances." A pretty blonde named Catherine giggled. "I do hope mine is handsome." "I just pray mine owns land," another woman whispered. Sophia remained silent, anxiety twisting in her stomach. Unlike the others, she had no letters from a potential husband, no promises exchanged. She was simply here, hopeful but terrified. The hotel lobby buzzed with excitement as townsfolk peered in at the new arrivals. Sophia noticed men tipping their hats and women whispering behind their hands. This was nothing like Boston, with its brick buildings and cobblestone streets. Willow Creek was raw and unfinished, a place carved from wilderness by sheer determination. "Room assignments, ladies," Mrs. Holloway announced, distributing small brass keys. "Miss Anderson, you'll be sharing with Miss Clemens." Catherine Clemens, the blonde, shot Sophia a disappointed look. "I was hoping for a room to myself." Sophia forced a smile. "I promise not to snore." As they settled in their room, Catherine chattered endlessly about her correspondence with a cattle rancher named Mr. Donnelly. "He writes the most beautiful letters. He's promised me a proper house with glass windows and a real piano imported from St. Louis." Sophia nodded, unpacking her few belongings: 3 dresses, a hairbrush, a Bible, and a daguerreotype of her parents. Her mother had died when she was a child, and her father, a bookkeeper, had passed away last winter. With no family and few prospects in Boston, the advertisement seeking women of good character and marriageable age for the Wyoming Territory had seemed like divine providence. "What about your gentleman?" Catherine asked, powdering her nose. "You've barely mentioned him." Sophia folded her nightgown carefully. "I don't have a specific match yet." Catherine's eyebrows shot up. "No match? Then why are you here? The advertisement said there were many men seeking wives, I thought." Sophia trailed off, suddenly feeling foolish. Catherine's laugh was not unkind, merely surprised. "Well, you're pretty enough, I suppose, though those spectacles don't do you any favors." She gestured to the wire-rimmed glasses Sophia wore. "And your hair might look better pulled back more severely." "Thank you for the advice," Sophia replied quietly, removing her glasses and placing them on the nightstand. Without them, the world turned blurry, but perhaps Catherine was right. Perhaps she needed to make changes if she wanted to secure a husband. The social gathering was held in the town hall, a wooden building that served multiple purposes for Willow Creek's 300 inhabitants. Lanterns hung from the rafters, casting a warm glow over the assembled crowd. Tables laden with food lined one wall, and someone played a fiddle in the corner. Mrs. Holloway paraded the mail-order brides in like prized cattle at an auction. One by one, she introduced them to their waiting matches. Catherine squealed with delight upon meeting her rancher, a broad-shouldered man with a handlebar mustache. The other women quickly paired off with their respective suitors, leaving Sophia standing alone beside Mrs. Holloway. "And this is Miss Sophia Anderson, Mrs." Holloway announced to the remaining men, her voice carrying across the room. "She's come from Boston and is skilled in reading, writing, and household management." The men looked her over, some with interest, others with barely disguised disappointment. Sophia felt her cheeks burn as they assessed her plain blue dress and unremarkable features. "Is she nearsighted?" one man asked, noticing her glasses. "My sister has eyes like that," another commented. "She can barely see past her nose without spectacles." "A bit thin, isn't she?" remarked a third, an older man with tobacco-stained teeth. "Won't be much help with farm work." Mrs. Holloway's smile tightened. "Miss Anderson comes highly recommended for her domestic abilities and gentle disposition." Despite her endorsement, the men gradually drifted away, drawn to the refreshment table or to converse with the town's few eligible widows. Sophia stood rooted to the spot, humiliation washing over her in waves. She should never have come. She should have found work as a governess or companion in Boston, anything but this public rejection. "Seems you're the unchosen one tonight," Catherine whispered as she passed by on her new fiancé's arm. "Such a shame." Sophia blinked back tears and moved toward the door. She needed air, needed to escape the pitying glances and whispers. Outside, the night air was cool, stars scattered across the Wyoming sky like diamond dust. She removed her glasses, wiping them clean of the tears that had splashed onto the lenses. "Those help you see better, I reckon. Might want to keep them on." The deep voice startled her. Sophia spun around, hastily replacing her glasses to focus on the tall figure leaning against the building. He stepped into the light, and she saw a man perhaps in his late 20s, with sun-bronzed skin and eyes the color of a summer storm. He wasn't dressed like the other men in their Sunday best. His clothes were work-worn faded denims, a blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up and a weathered brown hat pushed back on his head. "I wasn't crying," she said automatically, his mouth quirked up at one corner. "Never said you were." Sophia squared her shoulders. "Are you here for the bride selection?" he chuckled, the sound low and warm. "No, madam, just delivering supplies to the mercantile. Heard the music and got curious." He extended a calloused hand. "Benjamin Yates, most folks call me Ben." "Sophia Anderson." She hesitated before accepting his handshake. His grip was firm but gentle. "Boston, right? Heard Mrs. Holloway announcing you." Sophia winced. "Yes, though I'm beginning to think I should have stayed there." Ben leaned against the railing, regarding her thoughtfully. "Willow Creek takes some getting used to. It's not Boston, that's for certain." "It doesn't matter," Sophia said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "I'll be leaving on the next stage coach. Because of those fools in there." He nodded toward the hall. "Don't let them chase you off." "I came to find a husband," Sophia admitted, the words spilling out before she could stop them. "But it seems I'm unsuitable." Ben studied her face for a long moment. "Unsuitable because you wear glasses, or because you look like you've got thoughts in your head?" Despite herself, Sophia laughed. "Perhaps both. Their loss," Ben said simply. Then, with a casualness that belied the weight of his words, "I choose her." Sophia blinked. "I beg your pardon," I said. "I choose her. You." His eyes held hers steadily. "If you're looking for a proposal, that is." "But you don't know me." "I know enough. I know you're brave enough to travel across the country on your own. I know you held your head high even when those jackasses in there were saying foolish things." He removed his hat, revealing dark hair that curled slightly at the ends. "I've got a small ranch 10 miles outside town. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, free and clear. I could use a wife, and you need a place to belong. Seems simple enough to me." Sophia stared at him, speechless. This wasn't how she had imagined a proposal would be outside a town hall with a stranger in work clothes, and yet there was something disarmingly honest about Benjamin Yates. "I can't possibly accept," she finally managed. This is madness." Ben replaced his hat. "Maybe so. But sometimes madness makes more sense than whatever passes for reason." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small card. "My ranch is here, marked on this map. If you change your mind, the offer stands. I'm heading back tomorrow afternoon." Sophia took the card automatically, her fingers trembling slightly. "Think about it," Ben said. "That's all I'm asking." With a tip of his hat, he walked away, disappearing into the shadows between the buildings. Sophia stood motionless, the card clutched in her hand, her mind reeling. A man she had just met had proposed marriage with the same casualness one might suggest sharing a meal. It was absurd, reckless, completely improper. And yet, as she returned to the hotel that night, listening to Catherine's excited chatter about her upcoming wedding, Sophia couldn't help but think of Benjamin Yates and his direct gaze. "I choose her," he had said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. Morning brought no clarity. Sophia sat at the small desk in her room, staring at the hand-drawn map. The ranch, labeled Yates Homestead, was positioned near a creek, with rough sketches indicating pasture and woodland. It told her nothing about the man who had given it to her. "You're not seriously considering it?" Catherine asked when Sophia explained her encounter. "A man you met for 5 minutes. No, of course not," Sophia replied, though uncertainty gnawed at her. "It's just, he was kind when others were not." Catherine patted her hand with exaggerated sympathy. "Dear Sophia, kindness is not enough to build a marriage upon. Mr. Donnelly and I have corresponded for months. We know each other's hearts." But as Sophia watched the other brides making wedding plans, Catherine's wedding was set for the following week. She found herself repeatedly unfolding Ben's map. What would happen if she simply showed up at his ranch? Would he laugh at her gullibility? Or would he truly welcome her as he had suggested? The decision came suddenly, as Sophia watched the stagecoach that would have taken her back east depart without her. She hired a wagon and driver from the livery stable, using a significant portion of her remaining funds. Yates' place. The driver confirmed, a weathered old man named Harley. "Decent enough fellow, Ben Yates. Keeps to himself mostly, but fair in his dealings." The journey took nearly 2 hours, winding through rolling grasslands dotted with wildflowers. As they crested a hill, Sophia caught her first glimpse of the Yates homestead. It was modest, a log cabin with a stone chimney, a barn, corral, and several outbuildings. A creek sparkled in the distance, and cattle grazed in fenced pastures. It wasn't grand by any measure, but it had an undeniable charm. Ben was mending fence when they arrived, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal muscled forearms. He straightened as the wagon approached, shading his eyes against the sun. Recognition dawned on his face, followed by something that looked remarkably like pleasure. "Miss Anderson," he called, striding toward them. "You came." Sophia descended from the wagon, suddenly unsure of herself. "Mr. Yates, I thought I might see your ranch." Ben's smile was warm. "I'm glad you did." He paid Harley for the journey and asked him to return the next day. "Unless Miss Anderson decides to leave sooner," he added, glancing at her questioningly. "Tomorrow will be fine," Sophia confirmed, her heart racing at her own boldness. Ben showed her the property with evident pride. The cabin was simple but clean, with 2 rooms, a main living area with a kitchen and fireplace, and a small bedroom. "I built it myself," he explained. "Been adding to it each year." "It's lovely," Sophia said honestly. As evening approached, Ben prepared a simple meal of beans, cornbread, and coffee. They ate at a rough-hewn table, the silence between them occasionally broken by the howl of a distant coyote or the rustle of wind through the cottonwoods. "Why did you invite me here?" Sophia finally asked. "You don't know anything about me." Ben considered her question. "I know enough. I saw how you held yourself when those men were judging you, saw your dignity. That tells me more about a person than fancy words or promises." "And what about love?" Sophia pressed. "Don't you want to marry for love?" Ben's expression turned thoughtful. "My parents had an arranged marriage. They grew to love each other deeply. I've seen love bloom from respect and shared purpose." He met her gaze directly. "I respect you, Miss Anderson. The rest can come with time if you're willing." His honesty disarmed her. This wasn't romance as she had imagined it, with passionate declarations and heady emotions. It was something more grounded, more real. "I need to think," she said finally. "Take all the time you need," Ben replied. He offered her the bedroom for the night, insisting he would sleep comfortably enough by the fire. Alone in the small bedroom, Sophia assessed her situation logically. She had limited funds. Her prospects in Boston were bleak. Benjamin Yates seemed honorable and hardworking. His offer represented security, if not passion. Was that enough? She woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. Ben was already dressed and had breakfast waiting. Outside, the Wyoming sunrise painted the landscape in hues of gold and rose. "I've been thinking," Sophia said as they ate. Ben waited, his expression careful. "If I stayed, and I'm not saying I will, but if I did, what would you expect of me? To be my partner," Ben answered without hesitation. "To help run this ranch, to share this life." He gestured to the cabin. "It's not much now, but it could be more. We could build something together." "And as a wife?" Sophia asked, her cheeks warming. Ben's eyes met hers steadily. "I would never demand anything you weren't ready to give. We would be husband and wife in all ways, but only when you were comfortable with that." His consideration touched her. "I don't know the first thing about ranching. You'll learn, just as I'll learn whatever you want to teach me." His smile was gentle. "I heard you're good with books. My education's been mostly practical." They spent the day together, Ben showing her the workings of the ranch. He was patient, explaining everything from how to gauge a cow's health to the intricacies of the irrigation system he'd designed for his small vegetable garden. Sophia found herself genuinely interested, asking questions and offering suggestions. As sunset approached, Ben took her to his favorite spot on the property, a small rise overlooking the creek where cottonwoods swayed in the breeze. They sat side by side, watching the sky transform into a canvas of orange and purple. "It's beautiful here," Sophia admitted. "Different from anything I've known, but beautiful." "It grows on you," Ben replied. "Took me a while to see it myself when I first came west." "Where are you from originally?" "Pennsylvania. My father was a blacksmith. I came west after the war, looking for something new." He gazed at the horizon. "Found this land and knew it was where I belonged." Sophia nodded, understanding. "I've never felt that belonging somewhere." "You could," Ben said quietly. "Belong here, I mean." The simplicity of his offer moved her. There was no pretense with Benjamin Yates, no flowery courtship or grand promises. Just an honest man offering an honest life. "If I say yes," Sophia began cautiously, "we should have a proper courtship first. Get to know each other before marrying." Ben considered this. "Seems sensible. Though folks might talk if you stay here unmarried." I could return to town, find lodging there, you could call on me properly. And if someone else comes courting, the question surprised her. Would that bother you? A smile tugged at his mouth. Yes, madam, it would. But I'd respect your right to choose. I've already made my choice, Mr. Yates, Sophia said, surprising herself with her certainty. I'm choosing the man who chose me when no one else would. The following weeks unfolded in a pattern that gradually became familiar to Sophia. She took a room at the Willow Creek boarding house, using the last of her savings. Ben called on her 3 times a week, arriving punctually at 4 o'clock, freshly shaved and wearing his best shirt. They would walk through town, sometimes stopping at the Mercantile or sharing a meal at the hotel restaurant. The townsfolk whispered, of course. The mail-order bride who had been rejected at the social was now being courted by Ben Yates, a man known for keeping to himself. Catherine, now Mrs. Donnelly, expressed her astonishment when they met at church. Ben Yates, really, Sophia, he barely speaks to anyone in town. He speaks to me, Sophia replied simply, and he did. During their walks, Ben told her about his dreams for the ranch, his experiences during the war, his childhood in Pennsylvania. In turn, Sophia shared stories of Boston, her father's work as a bookkeeper, her love of literature and mathematics. You should have been allowed to study at university, Ben commented one evening as they sat on the boarding house porch. You've got a good mind. Women aren't welcome in such places, Sophia said, though his recognition warmed her. Seems a waste. Ben's hand found hers, a gesture that had become comfortable between them. When we marry, if we marry, I want you to keep reading, learning. I've got some books, not many, but we could get more. His consideration touched her deeply. Ben wasn't an educated man by formal standards, but he possessed a natural intelligence and curiosity that Sophia increasingly admired. 6 weeks into their courtship, disaster struck. A late summer storm unleashed torrential rain on Willow Creek and the surrounding countryside. The creek that gave the town its name swelled beyond its banks, flooding low-lying areas. Ben's ranch, situated near the water, was vulnerable. Sophia received the news from Harley, who arrived at the boarding house in a downpour. Yates' place is taking on water. Ben's trying to save what livestock he can, but it's bad, miss. Without hesitation, Sophia gathered her things. Take me there. Roads are washed out in places, Harley warned. Then we'll find another way, Sophia insisted. The journey was treacherous. Twice they had to detour around flooded sections of road, adding hours to the trip. By the time they reached the ranch, darkness had fallen, making the scene before them all the more dramatic. Lantern light revealed Ben and 2 neighboring ranchers struggling to move cattle to higher ground. The creek had become a raging torrent and water surrounded the cabin, reaching nearly to the door. Sophia waded through ankle-deep water, her skirts soaked and heavy. Ben, he turned at her voice, disbelief crossing his features. Sophia, what are you doing here? I came to help, she said, reaching him. Tell me what to do. For a moment he simply stared at her, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. Then he nodded. We need to move everything valuable to higher shelves. The water's still rising. Together they worked through the night. Sophia helped salvage food, tools, and Ben's few books, placing everything on shelves Ben hastily constructed higher on the walls. Outside, the men continued moving livestock to safety. By dawn, the rain had stopped, but the damage was extensive. Water had seeped into the cabin, ruining the floor and lower walls. The vegetable garden was destroyed and 2 calves had been lost to the flood. Ben sank onto a chair, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. I'm sorry you had to see this. Sophia, equally tired but determined, handed him a cup of coffee she'd managed to brew on the still-functioning stove. "This is what partnership means, isn't it? Facing challenges together." Ben looked up at her, something shifting in his expression. "You could have stayed safe in town and leave you to face this alone. What kind of wife would I be then?" "We're not married yet," Ben reminded her, though his eyes held a question. "No," Sophia agreed, "but I'd like to be, if the offer still stands." Ben set down his coffee and stood, taking her hands in his. Despite the mud and water surrounding them, despite their exhaustion and disheveled appearance, the moment felt perfect in its authenticity. "I meant what I said that first night, Sophia. I choose you. I choose you now more than ever." They were married 2 weeks later in Willow Creek's small church. The ceremony was simple, attended by the few neighbors who had helped during the flood and, surprisingly, Catherine and her husband. Sophia wore her best dress, not a wedding gown, but a pale blue frock that Ben said matched her eyes. "I promise to stand by you through flood and drought, through plenty and want," Ben vowed, his voice steady and sure. "I promise to be your partner in all things," Sophia responded, "to build a home and a life with you, whatever challenges we may face." They returned to the ranch that evening as husband and wife. Ben had worked tirelessly to repair the flood damage, replacing floorboards and replastering walls. The cabin was humble but clean, and now it was theirs. "Welcome home, Mrs. Yates," Ben said as he carried her over the threshold, a tradition he had insisted upon. "It feels like home already," Sophia replied honestly. That night, as they lay together as husband and wife for the first time, Sophia discovered a different kind of intimacy than she had imagined. Ben was gentle, patient, guiding her through her nervousness with tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. "I know this isn't what you dreamed of," he whispered in the darkness. "A Boston lady married to a rough rancher." Sophia touched his face, tracing the contours she was coming to know so well. "No, it's better. It's real." Autumn brought cooler temperatures and new routines. Sophia learned to ride, to milk cows, to preserve vegetables from their replanted garden. Ben built shelves for the books Sophia ordered from catalogs, creating a small library in one corner of their cabin. In the evenings, she read aloud while he worked on leather repairs or whittled. They faced challenges, of course. A harsh early winter. Cattle thieves who struck neighboring ranches. The persistent whispers in town that Sophia had settled for the only man who would have her. "Does it bother you?" Ben asked once, after overhearing such comments at the mercantile. "What they say?" Sophia considered the question seriously. "It did at first. Now I find it rather amusing. They think I accepted you out of desperation, when in truth, I've never made a better decision in my life." Ben's smile was worth every whisper, every challenge. "Nor have I, Mrs. Yates." Spring brought renewal to the land and a discovery that changed everything. Sophia's monthly courses failed to arrive, and morning sickness confirmed what she had begun to suspect. She was with child. When she told Ben, his reaction surpassed her most hopeful expectations. He lifted her in his arms, spinning her around their cabin, his face alight with joy. "A baby." "Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be," Sophia laughed. "We'll be parents by winter." Ben immediately began making plans: a cradle, an addition to the cabin, a proper garden fence. His excitement was infectious, transforming their already happy home into a place of joyful anticipation. Summer passed in a blur of preparation and growth, both of the ranch and Sophia's expanding belly. Ben hired 2 hands to help with the cattle, determined that Sophia should not overexert herself. She, in turn, established a small school in their home, teaching the ranch hands and 2 neighboring children to read and cipher. "You were born to be a teacher," Ben observed one evening, watching her explain multiplication to a ranch hand nearly twice her age. "Perhaps," Sophia agreed. "But I was also born to be your wife, though I didn't know it until that night outside the town hall." Their son arrived on a crisp November morning after a labor that tested Sophia's endurance, but never her resolve. Benjamin William Yates, Jr. entered the world with a powerful cry, his tiny fists clenched as if ready to take on life's challenges from his first breath. "He looks like you," Sophia whispered, cradling their son as Ben sat beside her on their bed. "Poor child," Ben joked, though his eyes were suspiciously bright. "He has your determination, though. Did you see how he was holding his head up already? Stubborn, just like his mother." "Determined," Sophia corrected with a smile. "Like both his parents." As winter settled over the Wyoming territory, bringing snow that transformed the landscape into a glittering wonderland, the Yates family established new rhythms. Ben would rise early to tend to the ranch, returning mid-morning to check on Sophia and the baby. Evenings were spent before the fire, little Benjamin often sleeping contentedly in his father's arms while Sophia read aloud from one of their growing collection of books. "I received a letter from Catherine today," Sophia mentioned one evening as Ben gently rocked their son. "She's expecting her first child in spring." "Happy news," Ben commented, "though I can't help feeling we got the better deal all around." Sophia set down her book. "How so?" Ben's gaze was warm as it moved from their son to her face. "Some folks spend their whole lives looking for love in grand gestures and fancy words. They miss that real love is built in moments like these ordinary days filled with ordinary kindnesses." Sophia moved to sit beside him, resting her head on his shoulder as they both gazed at their sleeping child. "There's nothing ordinary about the way I love you, Benjamin Yates." "Nor I you, Sophia Yates," he replied, pressing a kiss to her temple. "The unchosen bride who chose me right back." 1 year to the day after their first meeting outside the town hall, Ben presented Sophia with a gift, a daguerreotype of the three of them, taken by a traveling photographer who had passed through Willow Creek. In it, Sophia held baby Benjamin while Ben stood proud beside them, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. "For our family history," Ben explained as Sophia admired the image. "So our son will know how it all began." Sophia traced the outline of their faces in the photograph. With a mail-order bride no one wanted and a cowboy who said 3 simple words that changed everything. "I choose her," Ben repeated, the words now a cherished part of their shared story. "Best choice I ever made." As they stood together, their son cooing happily in Sophia's arms, the setting sun cast golden light through the windows of the home they had built together, not just the physical structure, but the life they had created from an unlikely beginning. Outside, the Wyoming wilderness stretched vast and challenging, but within these walls, they had found everything they had ever truly needed: love, purpose, and belonging. "I choose you," Sophia whispered, echoing the words that had started their journey. "Every day I choose you." And in that simple declaration was the greatest love story the wild Wyoming territory had ever witnessed, not because it was dramatic or perfect, but because it was real, built choice by choice and day by day, as enduring as the land itself.